Capitalism is destroying the earth. The earth is now facing a major crisis due to human activities, such as continuous rising temperature, the occurrence of extreme weather events, and the changes in the ecosystem. Despite the fact that the cliff edge is right in front of us under the capitalist system, people continue to march towards death, driven by the desire, I want to be richer. Capitalism sometimes could be seen as a monster created by human beings. Capitalism regards not only humans but also nature as mere objects of plunder, as tools for capital accumulation. In this presentation, we will talk about wildlife and their environment endangered by capitalism, which leads to conflicts. Here are 4 examples of how capitalism is threatening wildlife in the world today. After World War II, the consumption of fish in Japan had been declining year by year due to the introduction of meat culture from overseas. However, with the registration of Japanese food as a UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage in 2013, the export volume of Japan cultural and marine products as well as the cuisine began to increase. Since its registration, Japanese food has been increasingly popular both domestically and internationally due to its highly regarded image of being healthy and nutritionally balanced. In recent years, it has also become popular as a healthy and environmental friendly food with lower carbon dioxide emissions than meat. There are other types of Japanese food besides fish dishes, but sushi is probably the most globally recognized. Recently, its price has come down and it is now readily available all over the world. According to a survey by the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, there were approximately 55,000 Japanese restaurants in 2013, but now there are 160,000 in the world. The growing demand for Japanese food, the Japanese food industry is now doing more damage to sea creatures than ever before. In fact, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing is widespread in the world ocean, and many Japanese dishes are provided to the world at the expense of environmental damage to regular fishing, and human rights issues. What is the real reason why Japanese food was registered as a UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage? UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage is originally intended to protect cultures that are in danger of disappearing. But in the case of traditional cuisine and Japanese food, being recognized at the same time became a tool that could appeal to the world. As a result, it is now attracting attention even in countries where seafood has not been widely consumed in the past. And it has also led to an overabundance of fish used for sushi. Homer-Dixon's demand-induced and supply-induced deficiency apply to this problem. The global sushi boom and population growth can be attributed to the increasing number of people consuming fish. If overfishing continues at this rate, in a few years it will be impossible to obtain tuna, the most popular type of sushi. Japan has begun farming tuna in response to decline catches, but this requires importing large quantities of fish as bait, leading to global overfishing. Japanese food, which has become a tool of capitalism, is now destroying the ecosystem and the world itself.
The beef production emits far more global warming gases than many other food products in the production process, and it is considered as an important way to reduce the beef consumption globally to halt the climate change. Nonetheless, beef production remains almost flat. When we look at beef productions in the world, Brazil is the world's second largest beef producer after the United States. Both countries have vast tracts of land, but in the case of Brazil, cattle are raised on pastures created by cutting down the Amazon forest, which is known as the lungs of the earth. According to the Japan External Trade Organization (JETRO), the Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics show that beef exports are increasing yearly. Especially in China, the demand for cheap Brazilian beef is increasing year after year. The statistics indicate that beef export from Brazil to China surged compared to the previous year in both value and volume, with an 80% increase in export value and a 53% increase in export volume. The more beef Brazilians produce, the more they sell and earn money. Behind this rapid increase in production, nature is being destroyed at the same time. In order to secure the land to raise cattle, the tropical rainforests and the wildlife that live there are disappearing. Deforestation also has the possibility to become more than an environment problem. It is said that they are intentionally causing wildfires in order to use vast tracts of land in Brazil as cattle ranches. Therefore, monitoring agency staff and armed security forces are cracking down on forests in areas where illegal logging companies are present. This is a militarization of conservation of the forest in Brazil, which may lead to environmental conflict in the country. In the capitalist society, the companies that produce beef make a profit by exporting cheaply in large quantities to compete with others. As a result, companies attempt to cut costs that are not profitable by eliminating fatals. According to Global Canopy, which is an organization that targets the market force destroying nature, only 70% of beef companies in Brazil have policies to protect the forest in their operation or supply chain. So companies do not want to invest in the protection of the environment because it does not benefit them in the short term. Meat consumption has become an integral part of the capitalist economy. Consumption of fish requires the production of grain to feed cattle, and large profits are made in the production process when compared to other products. In a capitalist economy, Brazil's livestock industry is dependent on export, and the Amazonian forest and ecosystem is predicted to be the price to pay for meat production from now on.
Overconsumption of natural resources, particularly in mining and timber extraction, has resulted in deforestation, which poses a threat to the survival of wildlife dependent on the forest and nature. The overuse of natural resources can be seen as a result of capitalist economic system. Since the colonial era, the natural resources of the colonized countries have been exploited and leaving them with numerous environmental degradations and climate change issues today. Thus, it can be said that both colonial and capitalist expansion poses a threat to the destiny for our planet. Moreover, privatizations and market economy intensify and accelerate the extraction of resources, particularly in poor nations with abundant natural resources, and these extractions result in deforestation and the extinction of animals, wildlife, and biodiversity. In this case, we will focus on deforestation in Myanmar as a result of capitalism and the loss of animals as a result of deforestation. Myanmar is a resource-rich country and home to some of the largest rainforest zones on the Southeast Asian mainland. Due to its abundance of natural resources, the nation relies significantly on natural resources as its principal source of income, and thus the country became a resource-dependent nation. Although Burma has an abundance of natural resources, particularly timber and gemstones, and the exposure of these resources has been enormous. However, the country remains the poorest in the world. Therefore, from a resource abundance perspective, it is true that other non-resource industries are becoming demotivated and shrinking as a result of resource abundance. Allowing private enterprise to benefit enormously from the natural resource industries and extracting an excessive number of resources worsens deforestation in Myanmar. It is mostly caused by logging and increasing timber trade, forest conversion to commercial agricultural land, and implementation of big projects such as hydropower projects and mining. Myanmar is one of the world's largest exporters of timber, and most of the country's timber exported to other countries and only a small quantity of timber accessible to locals. And not only the legal timber trade, but also the illegal logging can be associated with deforestation and leading to environmental degradation. Moreover, because of the private agribusiness projects, forest conversion for commercial agriculture is accelerating at an unprecedented rate and putting the country's biodiversity at risk and also raising the chance of the land conflicts. Forest conversion to agricultural land is a form of eliminating the wildlife habitat, and some of the wildlife that has moved near the human settlements area has been hunted and killed. According to the Global Forest Watch, from 2002 to 2021, during a 20-year period, Almost 20% of the total tree cover in the country has been lost. This indicates that the selfish nature of capitalism is the reason why so many forest-dwelling wildlife have been driven away and forced to flee to other places, and why the majority of the country's wildlife has disappeared. In addition, resource mining projects, the implementation of an excessive number of hydropower projects, and some large infrastructure projects contribute to deforestation, and therefore, capitalism-driven deforestation has become one of the primary causes of wildlife extinction.
Wildlife is supposed to be free to live in the wild, but certain targeted wildlife has become the object of human hunting for keeping as pets, souvenirs for tourists, and so on. Capitalism that gives the people what they want to maximize their profit. Animals are being manipulated, tortured, and killed by the capitalist system when they are profitable. For example, in Japan, in Yambaru National Park, there is an endemic red turtle called the Rukru black-breast turtle. These species are endangered species, so hunting is prohibited by law. But a few years ago, many Rukru black-breast turtle were poached by foreigners for trading because the turtle symbolizes longevity, because red is an auspicious color. In addition, in some areas, small live animals are captured and used as accessories for sale. A live pet keychains, where animals are put in a plastic bag with liquid and barely able to move, that attract the people and create a market in China. In this way, putting high values on wildlife and wildlife products causes more poaching, trafficking of illegal wildlife, and in consequences leads to violent disputes, conflict on the other hand, because people put value on them and create a market value such as diamond and other jewelries. So, why do we talk about wildlife in our presentation? Because we need wildlife for our survival, well-being, and prosperity. Declining in wildlife population is decline in the ecosystem because wildlife keeps ecosystem balanced and provide healthier nature in many ways. For example, we all know that forest is important for climate change and wildlife play a crucial role in maintaining the forest system. Moreover, it can provide foods and medicines for humans. According to the World Economic Forum, over half of the world's entire GDP is somewhat or heavily dependent on nature and its services. In the Global South, 1.5 billion people depend on the forest. So we give four instances of how capitalism is endangering wildlife in the modern world. Currently, capitalism is causing the wildlife population to decrease, damaging the ecosystem as a result, and creating more crises all over the world. Luxurious capitalism such as pet souvenirs also has a great impact on the population of wildlife. Industrial agriculture, logging, and livestock industry cause deforestation and loss of wildlife species, which are profoundly shaped by the capitalism. Moreover, the expansion of fishing industry damage sea creatures, disappear local small-scale fishery sectors, and create inequality in society. When the ecosystem is collapsed by the capitalists, who are actually a small amount of people, the majority of people who contribute least to the problem are suffering. Among them, the poorest people are disproportionately the first to experience the effects of the climate change and biodiversity collapse. Finally, the climate change conflict, resource scarcity conflict, and human-wildlife conflict have appeared as a result of the capitalist system, which is a bad monster created by human beings in this case.